So, Stellaris 4.0, I was planning on playing and like getting good like 2 weeks to get a feel, as well as letting me just having my thoughts just develop properly, getting a feel for the various different gun types and playthrough civics, whatever sort of setups you want. And slight issue, it did not launch in the prettiest state. Let's just say a little extra time was maybe needed in the oven for its update. Anyway, I feel like now it's in a solid enough state to talk about it. Generally once fine. There's still some issues and bugs. At least now, me playing it, it functions pretty good. Biogenesis, I might post about soon-ish. Maybe I think everything at DLC is now pretty solid because 4.0 is better now. But wilderness is getting changed, and that's like a pretty significant part of DLC to really like the origin changes a lot from the gameplay, and I want that to be more in tuned before I really talk about biogenesis as a whole. But anyway, besides that, one undeniable part of update, which is definitely nice, is the game does run pretty well. I want to say significantly better, but it does run better. The late game doesn't make me feel like I'm trying to study on 2 hours of sleep, and it isn't like 100% smooth in the late game, but it does run much better. Like, it isn't nearly as chunky as it was before. I mean, I don't have like the biggest beast of a machine. It's a fairly decent thing apart from my computer specs somewhere up if you want to get an idea of how strong my PC is. But it runs pretty good in the late game now. And I imagine if you have a stronger PC, it probably is. I haven't really seen or checked out how people's PCs are doing, but for the most part, it feels pretty good on my machine. Although that's not always the greatest indicator of what works for me. So but generally it does seem like it's helping. Everything else just kind of feels like it's up to personal opinion. Everything else just really feels like it's up to personal opinion. I'll start with the plantain management aspect. The basic, well, I mean that's kind of a big whatever. The basic resource producing districts having specializations and the building slots within it, it's something I definitely like. It does add like a nice little min maxing sort of flavor fantasy to it. The other district populations added to like I guess the urban districts are fine. They can feel a bit obtuse, but they generally are pretty nice. Again, for the functionality and fantasy, the more min-maxing specialization of planets is it's all pretty good. But the balancing, which I mean, of course, can always be changed, and it does it, is a little bit wonky. Now, most notably for exotic resources, before it was something you had to put a good amount of effort into finding ways of finding planets or finding it naturally within just the solar system of planets. Now it's just like abundant. Like, it's really easy to do. It's the refineries now convert either your artisans or metallurgists and the consumer goods and alloys they make partially made into whatever the refinery is. So long as you have a solid-ish forge or factory world, you throw a refinery on those and you're just good. You're fine. So, I mean, I do kind of wish it was a little bit more of like a consideration than just kind of like a boom. But yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing, but I'm not trying to say it was a good or bad thing. They made it a little easier to get, but whatever. I still have mixed feelings about when it comes to the trade aspect. Trade in general is a little bit weird. I do like it being like an actual resource instead of some weird nebulous like sort of thing. Like adding some sort of idea or thing that like is actually happening, like for example planetary deficits. If your planet is using more resources than it is producing, so it has a negative of whatever, it actually will take a work trade. I do like that there is some sort of like impact thing going on within the actual gameplay, but in general, at least from how I've been playing, I mean, it doesn't ever really seem to matter. Like, it's not ever really a consideration to ever like have at any point. I mean, even then, like, especially because how the plans are set up. Like, let's say if like a forge or a factory world, if you're doing, I mean, if you're doing like catalytic, whatever, like whatever it is, you can very easily produce the minerals or food needed for those resources like on planet, and it very rarely is ever a thing. Most of the other times on planets that are like consuming a lot of resources, like it's really only the minerals or the food, and then like everything else, like some consumer goods, and like that's it, and like a bunch of very small ones. So it's never really the hugest of impacts, but you know, I do like the idea they're going with, but I do think it's kind of meh. The gradual aspects of pops instead of just being like a boom new pop, like is something I like. It makes things a little more, I feel like, smooth. And there's also like various other changes, like the buildings, which like there's a bunch of buildings to increase efficiency for like the specialist jobs for researchers and artisans and metallurgists. Tech changes, well as traditions, which I mean, like again, a lot of it's really the personal preference which you prefer. Overall, the update, it did take some getting used for me. I think for the most part, it does, it is pretty good, does help with performance, and, only get better as time goes on as they, tinker stuff and mess things and all that, goodness. But it's definitely understandable if your favorite game just got rearranged and some other aspect of Origin that maybe you really enjoyed playing with just kind of doesn't really function either the same, either because some aspect of the game was changed, the feel of it doesn't feel the same anymore, or it's just kind of bugged out because I mean just how much content's in the game. So yeah, definitely understandable if you not exactly jazzed with how they've been taking the development of Stellaris right now. 4.0 is definitely not in a completely 100% state. Is better a month out, but yeah, I would say overall, at least for me, I like it, but it makes sense if you don't feel so great about it. I'm not really sure what the point of this videos like to be. Just kind of like a hey, 4.0 didn't really, it's not that great. It's better now, but if you don't like it, that makes sense. I understand. I like it though. I think it's all right. So yeah, I don't know if you found this video useful in any way or like entertaining, I guess. Cool. Thank you for watching all the way through, and hopefully you can enjoy it if you don't. Um, otherwise, sex suck. I don't know, dog. Bye.